The rancher's hand trembled as he clutched the edge of the cloth, his breath ragged, his chest rising and falling in uneven waves as though his lungs were struggling under the weight of the moment. He looked at her face, at the desperate plea in her eyes that shimmered with something more than fear, something he could not name. Her lips quivered as she whispered again, softer this time, like a prayer being stolen by the wind. "Please, broken bar, don't take the cloth off." But he had already begun. The cloth felt heavier than it should have, as if the fabric carried with it centuries of silence, secrets too dense to be carried by the shoulders of any one person. He peeled it away, slow and unsure, every movement followed by the sound of his heartbeat pounding in his ears. When the last fold slipped from his fingers, when the mystery underneath was exposed to the cold air of the room, his knees almost buckled. His whole body began to shake, not from cold but from the enormity of what he saw. The woman gasped and turned away, her arms wrapping around herself as if she were naked though her body was still fully covered. She whispered words he didn't understand, maybe in a language older than the desert round them. Her shoulders shook, not from shame but from the weight of knowing what had just been uncovered could not be undone. The rancher felt the ground tilt under him. His mouth was dry, his voice strangled, his body trembling as though he had touched lightning itself. What he saw beneath that cloth was not grotesque, nor was it something meant to horrify you. It was something far beyond ordinary comprehension. It was a mark, burned deep into her skin, lines and shapes that looked both human-made and impossibly natural, as though fire and earth and bone had conspired together to etch them into her flesh. The mark pulsed faintly, as though alive. His hand, against his will, lifted closer, trembling like a branch in storm winds. The closer he came, the more the mark seemed to thrum, a deep vibration not of sound but of feeling, echoing in his chest, rattling his bones. He pulled back, gasping, and staggered as though struck. "You shouldn't have looked," she said, her voice breaking, tears spilling onto her cheeks. "You weren't meant to see this." He stumbled back against the wall, his hat falling to the dirt floor, his eyes wide as he struggled to draw breath. "What a broken bar, what is it?" he managed, his voice hoarse, raw. She didn't answer at first. Her hand clutched the cloth, pulling it back over the mark as if covering it might undo what had already happened. She sank to her knees, her hair falling around her face, her sobs low and muffled. The rancher stared at her, his whole body trembling with the aftershock of what he had seen. When she finally spoke, her words were quiet but heavy, like stones dropped into water. "It's a curse," she said. "A gift, a punishment, all of it together. My family has carried it for generations. And now you've seen it, you're part of it too." The words sank into him like nails. He wanted to laugh, to deny, to push it away as superstition, but his body betrayed him. His hands were still shaking uncontrollably, his chest tight, his thoughts scattered like dust in the wind. He knew, deep inside, that something had passed between them the moment his eyes fell on the mark. Something unseen had taken hold. He staggered toward her, falling to his knees across from her, his voice breaking as he spoke. "Why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you?" She lifted her face, her eyes red and fierce. "I begged you." The truth of it cut him deeper than any blade could. He had heard her words. He had ignored them, driven by curiosity, by stubbornness, by that reckless streak that had always gotten him into trouble. And now, he wasn't the only one who would pay. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice barely audible. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, her face hardening, the softness replaced with the strength of someone who had carried burdens he could not begin to understand. "Now," she said, "you live with it. You live with the mark's shadow on your soul. Maybe it will break you, maybe it will change you, or maybe it will take everything you love and leave you hollow. That's how it works. That's how it always works." The room was silent except for their breathing. The rancher's mind raced, memories flashing like lightning across his thoughts. His ranch, his cattle, the dusty horizon at dusk, the sound of his late father's voice, the smell of his mother's cooking, the laughter of the few friends who still rode out to visit him. He imagined all of it slipping through his fingers, torn away piece by a curse he hadn't believed in an hour ago. His shaking worsened. His breath hitched. "No," he whispered. "I can't. A broken bar. I can't carry something like that." She looked at him with something like pity, something like sorrow. "Neither could I," she said softly. "But I had no choice." The weight of her words fell on him like the sky itself had collapsed. He wanted to scream, to claw at the invisible presence that seemed to grip his chest tighter with every passing moment. But he stayed there on his knees, shaking, staring at the woman before him, at the cloth that now hid the mark, at the truth that nothing in his life would ever be the same. The night outside deepened. Coyotes howled in the distance. The desert wind pressed against the walls, whispering like voices in the dark. And inside, two people sat across from each other, one who had carried the burden all her life, and one who had just stepped into a shadow he could never escape.